Hi guys and welcome to this video. My name is Jaime Valencia. I'm part of the PDI Technical Advisors in Cisco. On this video I'm going to show you how to configure the SCCP integration between CUCM and Unity connection on 11.x release. I'm also going to show you some of the first-time configuration that you would want to do on your Unity connection server, and I'm also going to include a demo of how this is going to work. I hope this is useful for you. Before I start with the configuration of the SCCP integration, I'm going to configure a couple of things. In first place, I'm going to configure the LDAP integration on Unity connection. For this, you go to LDAP setup, and you need to enable synchronize from LDAP. Then you need to choose the server type and the LDAP attribute for the user ID. In second place, you need to go to the LDAP directory configuration, and you need to add a new integration. In this case, all the values are the same that I'm using with CUCM. You can see that here. I'm using the same values, the same OU, and the same user. I'm also syncing the directory URI to mail, as you can see here, and everything is pointing to the same server. Then we need to configure the LDAP authentication. Once again, these are the same values that I have on CUCM. Once you have that, you usually want to configure the class of service and the user templates. In first place, let's go to the user template. We go to voicemail user template, and you can define a few things in here. You are going to choose the partition and the search scope for them. In this scenario, I'm not going to create any new ones. I'm going to use the default ones. The phone system, which we are going to use for the integration, and this is the default name that it has, phone system. The class of service, and this one is very important depending if you're going to be using Jabber or IMAP. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Then you configure them for self-enrollment at next sign in, if they are going to be listed in the directory, and other things, as if you want to skip the PIN, which is not recommended for security. One thing that I'm going to change on this one is that I'm going to click on the generate SMTP proxy address from corporate email address, as I'm going to be configuring single inbox later. Now we're going to look at the class of service, and the one that we are interested in is voicemail user class of service. In here, if you want to change the time for the record name, you can do it here. You can also change the time for the greetings. And a few things that I need to change in here is that I'm going to allow users to access IMAP, because I'm also going to be enabling single inbox and also Jabber. I'm going to allow them to use the web inbox, to use some advanced features, to use voice recognition and text-to-speech. I'm not going to allow the speech view. I'm going to do an integration with MediaSense at a later date, so I'm going to enable video greetings, and once I do the integration I will show you how that works. I'm going to allow them to configure their personal transfer rules and to use the unified client to access their voicemail. This obviously will depend on what you want your users to be able to configure. One important setting is that you can also change the maximum length of their messages in here. You can also configure the restriction tables that they are going to be using. I'm going to also enable these two options for my users, and I'm going to click on Save. Once you have those and you have completed the LDAP integration, you can go to Import Users, find users in the LDAP directory, and click on Find. As you can see, these are the same users that I have in my CUCM cluster, and I'm going to import all of them. I'm going to choose the voicemail user template. I'm going to use these users for the two integrations that I'm going to be doing. This one is for Skinny, and I'm going to be doing the SIP integration in a separate video. I'm going to use the same phone number. I do not need to change it. If you want to change it from the original phone number, you can do it. So I'm going to click on Import Selected. Once you have this message and there are no failures, all of your users have been imported. So let's go and check. As you can see, I had 5 users that were default by the system, and now I have all my 22 users in here. With this, we can go ahead and start with the skin integration for CUCM. Now we are going to start with the integration. We are looking right now at the user template. The phone system that is configured for all of them is phone system. We go to telephone integration, and if we click on phone system, we are going to see that is the default name. This is the one that is created by default. I'm going to change this. I'm going to configure it to CUCM test. I'm going to configure it to send message counts. I'm going to enable it for supervised transfers. On this case, I'm not going to enable phone view yet. This might be in another video. And I'm going to click on save. Now, as you can see, you get a warning that says that the phone system cannot take calls until a port group is set. Use the related links to add the port group. If we go to related links, you will see add port group. We click on go. We are going to create a port group, which is going to be for a scan integration. We also have SIP, SIP to DMG, PIMG, TIMG. The display name for this is going to be CUCM test 1. Now, the device name prefix is something that you define on the CUCM site. I'm going to be using the default. I'm going to show you this once we go to the CUCM site. By default, if you use the voicemail wizard, the device name prefix that you are going to get is going to be Cisco UM1-BI. I'm going to show you how this maps to the CUCM configuration once we go to CUCM. Now, as to the dial plan that I'm going to use, it's going to be pretty simple. I'm going to be using 4000 for the voicemail pilot, 4001 through 4024 voicemail ports, and 4025 for MWI on, 4026 for MWI off. And that's what I'm going to configure in here. For the MWI on, I'm going to configure 4025. And for the MWI off extension, I'm going to configure 4026. One important thing is that you can actually change the device name prefix to whatever you want. I'm just going ahead right now with the defaults. Now, the primary server settings, I'm going to use the hostname, which is CUCM test. And I'm going to click on save. And we have created the port group. Now you also get another warning that says that the phone system cannot take calls if it has no ports. Use the related links to add ports, and that is what we are going to do. We click on go. We are going to be adding ports. Something very important here. The number of ports that you can add for your system is going to be directly tied to the OVA that you're using. Let me show you that. On this case, I'm using the 1000 users OVA, which is going to be this one. I'm using the 2 CPU options with 4 gigs of RAM. That means if we go down that, the total number of available ports for virtual machine, voice, text-to-speech, and voice recognition, it's going to be 24. I cannot go beyond 24 ports for this virtual machine. If I try to do so, it's going to error out, and I'm actually going to show you that. Now, let's go back to the Unity Connection admin. As I told you, I can only configure 24 ports, and I'm going to try to configure 30 ports. These are going to be tied to the phone system CUCM test, which used to be phone system, to the port group CUCM test-1, and to this server. I'm going to click on save. Now, as you can see, this error out and I get this. I was only able to create 24 ports, and you get this. Voice ports can be configured up to a maximum of 24 on CUC test. Port limit reached to its maximum allowed configuration for its hardware. And this is expected. As you can see, I was able to create 24 ports. They are all enabled. They are all enabled to answer calls, to send message notification, to dial out MWIs, and to trap connections. Now, depending on what you have on your CUCM and what you want to configure, there are a couple of things that you also need to configure. If you go to phone system, if you want to configure an AXL integration to your CUCM server, you need to do so here. Let me do this. For example, I'm going to configure this. If you have more than one server, you also want to make sure that you add all those here. And we click on save. Now we can click on test to make sure that this works. And as you can see, we get a message that it was successfully connected to AXL. Now we also need to go to the port group, and this is only necessary if you have more than one server. Then you need to click Edit, Servers, and in here you can add more than one server. If you're going to be doing this integration to all of your CUCM servers, if you want to have failover, then you need to add them here. As you can see, you can choose between CUCM and Call Manager Express. You can also add them to be TFTP servers. This is something that a lot of people forget, and when this happens, you are going to have failover for your voicemail ports in CUCM, but not on Unity connection. You can also change the codec advertising here, depending on what you have. The defaults are going to be G711 MULO and G729. If you also want to use 722, ILBC, or ALO, you can change that here. With this, we already have the configuration that we need on the Unity connection side, and we are going to move over to CUCM to configure this. In CUCM, in order for this to work, you need to create two new partitions. One is going to be used for the voicemail ports, which the directory numbers should not be able to reach directly, neither the MWI numbers. You can usually create one partition for the MWIs and use that for troubleshooting. That's what I do, but ideally the end user should not know and they should not be able to dial the MWI numbers. You also need to create another partition in which you are going to have the voicemail pilot. I already have those created. I have the voicemail pilot in all these three, and I also have it in here. But this one, the voicemail, this is the one that I'm going to be using for the voicemail ports. The main difference with the other ones is that I'm not going to be allowing my voicemail ports to dial out to the PSTN. Depending on your policies, you might use one of the console spaces that you have already created and that you use for your phones or not. That is going to be up to everyone to decide. Once you have those created, we need to use the voicemail port wizard, which is under Advanced Features, Voicemail, and Cisco Voicemail Port Wizard. If you remember, we defined a prefix for the ports, and this is the default one, which is Cisco UM1. I'm going to keep using it. Then this is important, and this is where you get the name and the -bi. The voicemail port names that have the format server-bi, where n is the port number, and this is going to map to what we have in Unity connection. I'm going to add 24 ports for this integration. Then I'm going to add the description, device pool, console space. As I mentioned, I already have a console space created specifically for the voicemail ports. And these are going to be non-secure voicemail ports. Then the beginning directory number is going to be 4001, as I mentioned. The partition is going to be voicemail ports. We are going to define the same console space, which is voicemail-css. And I'm not going to change the caller ID display. Then we click on next. On this scenario, I do not have any line groups, so I'm going to click on yes, add directory numbers to a new line group. The line group name, that one I'm going to change. This is the summary of what is going to happen. You're going to be adding 24 ports. The voicemail server name, which is going to be the prefix, is going to be Cisco UM1. The description for them, device pool. And you're going to get the directory number information, and we're going to click on finish. We are going to get exactly what it did, and as you can see, it started creating the voicemail ports, and it also added them to a line group. Now it's going to ask us if we want to add this line group to a new or existing home list, and we need to do that because I did not have any created yet. We're going to home list, and we're going to click on add new. You want to use these two options, enable this home list, and for voicemail usage. We're going to click on save, and we're going to add the line group that was created. You should see it as registered with CUCM test on this case, and right now we also need to create the pilot. In order to do that, we go to co-routing, route hunt, and hunt pilot. This is the partition that I created only for the voicemail pilot. And the rest of this you can leave without any changes. And we click on save. Now we can go, well, we could actually go right after the voicemail port wizard to see our voicemail ports, advanced features, voicemail, and Cisco voicemail port. As you can see, we have here all the 24 ports. We can see the partition, the status, they should show as registered, and the IP address. This is the IP address from my Unity connection test. Now, what else do we need to do? We need to add the voicemail pilot, the profile, and the MWI numbers. All of those are in the same menu. Voicemail. Right now we're going to start with the MWI numbers. There shouldn't be any. And we're going to click on Add New. In this case, if you remember, we use 4025 for the MWI on. This is going to be in the MWI partition, which, as I mentioned, the end devices should not have access to. And it's also going to use the console space for the voicemail ports. And we'll click on Save. Then we're going to add a new one. And this one is going to be for the off. The rest of the settings are going to be the same. Now we need to create the pilot for the voicemail. You can either just use the default one and change it, or you can create a new one. As you can see, we have all this information, but this one is blank. In order to make it this easy, I'm going to use the default one. If you recall, I defined 4000 in the hunt pilot, and that is going to be the same one that we are going to use here. And I'm going to use the voicemail CSS, which has access to the voicemail ports. And I'm going to make this default voicemail for the system. I'm just going to change the name for this. It should be reflected in here. The last thing that we need to do is configure the voicemail profile. We also have a default voicemail profile, and everything should be configured with the other default settings. The voicemail pilot was defined as 4000 in the voicemail CSS. I'm also going to change the name for this one. If you want to change the voicemail mask, for example, if your directory numbers in CUCM are 10 digits, but the numbers in Unity Connection are just 4 digits, you can configure a masking here. And that, for example, it could be, you could configure it this way, and that way you could only send the last 4 digits from the directory number that is calling. In this case, since they match, I do not need to use this. This could be all the configuration that you would require if you're going to be using your phones, but you also need to configure them as a UC service. We're going to click on Add New. This is going to be voicemail, and it's going to be Unity Connection. Now for this one, I'm going to keep the port to 443 and the protocol as HTTP. And we're also going to add a new one, and this one is going to be Maelstrom. And it's going to be the same settings, even though that we see exchanging here, you use this one for Unity Connection as well. I'm going to leave also the default settings, port 143 and protocol TCP. Then we need to adjust our service profile in order for our users to have also access to this. We change the voicemail profile to Unity Connection Test as well as the Maelstrom, and we save the change. And now we're going to go ahead with the demo. Right now I have everything set up for the test. I have 2 users. I have Bill Mosley and I have Corey Taylor, and I'm going to be dialing from Corey Taylor's directory number into Bill Mosley. I already have it called forward all to voicemail.
Sorry.
Bill Mosley
Is not available. Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hello Bill, this is test message number 1. Please let me know if you hear this. And as you can see, we get the MWI on the IP communicator and also in Jabber. For this test, I'm going to hear the voicemail in Jabber. One thing is that I did not have the sound from this virtual machine to my computer, so it's going to play, but we are not going to hear it. As you can see, it's playing and the MWI just turned off. I'm going to repeat this scenario. We are going to suddenly see other 2 messages in here. I'm going to hear one message from an IP communicator and another one from the web inbox, so you can see that everything is tied together. For this test, I'm going to show you how it works with the web inbox. As you can see, now I have a new message and I can see the MWI on Jabber and on the IP communicator, and I'm going to hear this message directly in the Cisco PCA through the web inbox. As you can see, we also get the MWI off on both devices. The final test is going to be using an IP communicator. For this final test, I'm going to register Bill Mosley's IP communicator directly in my computer so you can hear the audio.
Enter your PIN followed by pound.
Bill Mosley.
Hello. You have one new voice message. Plus, you have 2 saved messages. New messages. Message 1 from
Cody Taylor. This is message number 3 for Bill Mosley. This is message number 3.
Received today at 10:11 a.m. To repeat, press 1. To save it, 2. To delete it, 3. Saved. End of new messages.
As you can see, the MWI was also turned off. With this, we come to the end of this video and of the demo. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope this was useful for you.